Welcome to Connecting You, the podcast where we explore the journey of connecting to God, yourself, and others. I'm your host, Mayra Richards, founder of Remain Connected Counseling. And joining me is our marketing director, Emily Robinson. At Connecting You, we believe that each one of us is in a unique journey, seeking connection and belonging in a world that often feels disconnected. So, wherever you are in your journey, we invite you to join us as we explore what it means to remain connected to God, to yourself, and to others. Welcome to Connecting You, where you belong. Hi, friends. I have a very special guest for you today. He is a girl dad, and he is one of my favorite people in the whole world. Not one of them. He is my favorite person. It's my husband, Gavin Richards, and he gets to give you some insight into what it's like to be a dad. Emily is going to be asking him some questions, so I won't get in the way. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, so here we have Gavin Richards, a girl dad. He has two little girls, and he has been a man his whole life, so it's a whole new perspective.
I certainly have, yes. Thank you.
So, yeah, we've talked a lot about anxiety on this podcast, and we just realized that we didn't have the men's perspective and whether or not they are able to experience it differently, talk about it with their friends, talk about it in the world. And yeah, what do you say your general experience with anxiety is?
My general experience with anxiety. I never would have thought I have it in any way until I became a dad, probably is what I would say there. Yeah.
So beforehand, like when people spoke about anxiety, like you just didn't connect to it.
No, I saw myself as pretty easygoing, laid back, go with the flow. But getting married, having kids, I found that that's not necessarily always true, or pieces of that not true at all. Found that I do like some structure. I do like to know kind of what's coming in most cases. And yeah, just if things get out of control, I find kind of like with the kids and stuff, I'll start to feel a lot of anxiety. If everyone's kind of going wild and I don't know what the next move is as a family, like perhaps we have plans or maybe we don't, then I will feel a lot of anxiety.
And what does that feel like to you? Is it similar to what we've described?
Yeah, a little bit, just not being in control, feeling like, for me, what really fuels it is if I feel like no one hears me.
Yeah.
Or no one's responding to me. So with kids, that's like all the time.
Yeah.
You ask them to either do something or to, stop doing something, stop messing with your sister sort of thing. And they keep doing it. And then, that's a real clear example of them just not responding or hearing you. And that's like a small time thing, but this even goes to my relationship with Mayra is, if I say something and I feel like she didn't hear me, then it'll feel like I'm out of control. I don't know how to communicate with her. What do I do now? Do I need to act out some way, like so that she understands that I need to tell her something? But we've worked through a lot of that, and it's gotten a lot better.
So it seems kind of like for you, it was this foreign feeling of suddenly being like smaller than you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Or than you were used to being.
It's I think more it's being part of a family unit rather than just being me.
Mm-hmm.
Just having to worry about me. I now have to worry about my wife and my kids, and my sweet dog who just got spayed. So it's that feeling of, I guess, that closeness that I know of myself has now been expanded to other individuals that I can't control per se. And there's a lot of anxiety tied to that.
And how do you think dads can like respond to this? I know some dads can get very angry or just deal with it and trying to make it like, this is my household and everyone will do what I say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the right way to go, but
Yeah, I certainly relate with those. But are you asking, how do I do it, or what do I think is the best way? Or
yeah, how do you respond in a way that like actually helps you?
I can't think of a specific example right now, but in times when I feel like I can't control or get a handle on either my girls or the situation, then kind of mentally taking a step back and taking a breath and, asking myself, is this really a big deal? Does it really matter? For instance, like, does it really matter that she puts the tops on the markers when she's done with them? Not really. Or does it really matter that I can kind of foresee that she will spill that cup of water, but does it really matter? Like, it's just water, and that's really hard to do in the moment because no one wants to clean up a mess and kind of have to worry about that thing. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. And I've talked with Mayra before, like, what is our goal with our kids? And one of the number one goals is connection with them.
Mm-hmm.
And is the response to a certain situation going to damage that connection or strengthen it? So, for instance, like with the water cup example, if I'm like, watch what you're doing, don't do that. Well, like, it's not helpful to anybody. It's definitely not the connection piece. And, whereas if I just let her do her thing, maybe she'll be fine. Or maybe she spills it. And then it's hey, that's okay. Let's clean it up together, or it's just water, and you move on. And that's like I don't know, a strengthening moment rather than a breaking moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something that we talk a lot about, like with moms, is that they feel a lot of guilt in their parenting and whether they're doing the right thing, whether they're like keeping the kids on the right like sleep schedule and on the right plan that everyone else's advice is, and their input on what they should be doing with the babies and their kids and whatnot. Like, do you feel the same noise of people giving you a lot of input on how to be a dad?
No.
I didn't expect you to.
I think it would boil down to more like a peer pressure thing in the way of like comparison, because we have a lot of friends around us and there's dads, and, I'm good friends with all of them. And I see how they parent and stuff. And like, I see some things that are like, oh, that's really good. And or like, oh yeah, that's a good thing. I should try that. Or, that's just very different from how I would do it. But I don't think I feel ever like, oh, they're doing it better than me. They're just doing it their way. And and that could be a personality thing. I can't speak for all the dads, but perhaps there is some of that out there of, oh, he tosses his kid in the air all the time and they have a great time. And it looks like there's never any anxiety or stressing about the small stuff. Whereas I stress about the small stuff and, why can't I just let it all go, sort of thing. I could definitely see that coming into play. But in general, no.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to. I just don't get the sense that people are telling like men as much what to do, like in terms of like authority figures and whatnot. Do you think that, like, do you talk to your friends about this, like the parenthood or the comparison or the stress?
Not about that in particular. No, it's more every now and then. It's more like an every now and then kind of thing. If maybe I'll notice one of my friends is going through a stage with his kid, who and his kids might be different age maybe older or younger than mine. And I'll just ask like, hey, how'd you handle that? Like, or I noticed that one time, your son was not happy with the situation. Like, how'd you handle it? How did you bring him back in, sort of thing? But yeah.
Do you feel pressure from society to like be very stoic, or do you think it's okay for dads to be like, oh yeah, I am anxious about the water cup or the grocery store or whatever it
The
is?
grocery store. Yes. Yeah, I do feel some, I guess, outside pressure to be, I guess, like you said, stoic about it. To not, at least to put on that you're not stressing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I can see that. Since you brought up the grocery store.
Gavin has a fear of the grocery store that we've talked about, just that it's an environment where there's a lot of different factors that he can't control.
Yeah. So I don't know why, but I've internalized a lot, I guess, throughout my life of, I guess, being considerate of others and like others' time. And like, in the grocery store, there's the yelling kid, for instance. And I always thought to myself, like, gosh, that's never going to be my kid. Or like, why is that even happening? And I can just imagine being in that parent's place. Well, I don't have to imagine anymore. I've been in that place. My kids have had tantrums in the store, and it's some days it's whatever, and you just kind of look at them and you say, "You're doing your thing right now, and you're having a tantrum, and that's just how it is." And other days, I feel a lot of anxiety there, and thinking, how fast can I get out of the store without seeming like I'm stealing stuff,
Or stealing this kid.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of it comes down to my own personal mindset. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a lack of acceptance around dads being able to like have these feelings, and my perception is that they just either don't have them or okay, let me rephrase. I think people perceive that because dads aren't expressing these feelings, like that they don't have them.
Okay.
And that dads are just very like go with the flow, never has any idea what's going on. I know like one of my friends' dads like took them to the wrong school one day because he never drove the kids to school. And so he thought they went to this other school.
That's incredible.
But that's just like, I feel like the perception or my perception or just things that people say is that the dad is just so hands off. He's like living in his own world.
Okay.
And I just don't think that that's like giving them space to then come and talk about it and be like, oh, I actually do pay attention or I am affected when things happen.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Like, I feel like in general that that space is not always provided. I think a lot of it can come down to the marital relationship. Like, is that communication happening between husband and wife? You say, like you said earlier, that you don't feel like there's much pressure on guys to, I guess, relate to what's going on in the family, but from the wife there is.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, to be in tune and to be talking with each other. It might stir up some arguments, it might stir up discussion, but in the end, like I mentioned earlier, even with the kids, it will bring about connection. And if husband and wife are connected, then they can lead the family better. They can be present for the kids better, rather than, fighting with each other while they're playing with the kids. They can just focus on the kids. Yeah. There's one other point I want to make. Thinking back about like the grocery store example, about how there might be a little more societal pressure for guys not to react or anything like that. This is my personal view, and I'm just thinking through. I haven't seen this happen. I don't know anybody does this, but if I were to see a mom like get after her kids in the store, I would think, oh, it's just normal. That's like what a mom has to do. But if I would see a dad do that, generally, like kind of in the same tone, I would think, ooh, he's being real mean with them. That's my personal view. And it would come down to tone of voice, and like generally you think of a man like being coming on real strong sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certainly tactful ways to do it with kids, to address their behavior, where you're not yelling at them. But in the moment, that can happen. And you would, I don't know, if I would hear that, I'd be like, are those kids okay? Are those kids going to be okay?
Yeah.
So.
It is funny that or it is interesting that would be like a surprising scenario, because you would imagine that men would be like, as we said, more authoritative or more like pressure to be strong. But it seems to go back to the idea of good cop, bad cop, which I think my idea of like moms and dads has often been that the mom feels a lot of anxiety because she's the only one trying to control the situation. And she is the only one who is like making sure that the kids are dressed and going to the right school and getting lunch money and eating, and that's all of her pressure. And then dad is the one who like comes and like bails you out at noon on a Friday and you go get ice cream. Yeah. And he gets to just live like the life that he wants to have. And now I think that's changing a lot, because there's like stay-at-home dads or dads who work from home and dads who split the chores. Like it's changing a lot. And I don't know that society has talked about it or is like ready to accept men who are like so much more involved with the family without that like knee-jerk reaction of it being feminine.
Yeah, it certainly has changed a good bit, from the model of, dad's the breadwinner, mom stays at home sort of thing. That was my family's, I guess, situation for me growing up. And, when I started dating Mayra and when we got married, we did have conversations about how, without me even knowing it, that was somewhat my expectation. Like it was an expectation for myself to be the breadwinner and like provide sort of thing. And she said, she basically was in discussion with me and said, no, you don't have to feel that pressure. Like I'm working too, sort of thing, and I'm going to work and I'm not a stay-at-home mom, and, all this stuff. And we just kind of had to work through that. And a lot of it did come from the fact that was my model. How would I know anything different? It is interesting though. Like I don't think of it as, you talk about stay-at-home dads and, that paradigm kind of shifting over the years. I guess I personally don't see it as being feminine at all. And I don't know if it's because of the shift or that's just my outlook, but, like I know, a friend of ours around here that is a stay-at-home dad, and he does a great job at it and he loves it, and we'll talk your ear off about it. So, a lot of respect there. And at times I wish that I could do it. I don't know that I could. Mayra she'll tell me sometimes that she gets a little, I guess, envious of how I play with the girls. Like she likes that I do, and she thinks that I play with them really well, and she thinks we have a lot of fun and they love to play with me. Right. And And I don't know if that's because I have that little bit of time after work, you know, or is that something I could do all day? You know,
Mm-hmm.
would it become taxing? Would I get burnt out on that? I should hope not, but
Yeah.
the weekends are little stress tests, but usually on weekends, even then, there's an end. You know that, we're going to get back to the norm on Monday, that sort of thing. But yeah.
I definitely don't think that like being a stay-at-home dad or any of that should be feminine.
Right.
I was just commenting on a lot of people will like diminish it or downgrade it as you haven't fulfilled your role within the family. So I guess the last question that I have for you is, what do you think that dads need to hear, or that would be helpful for them to hear, like in terms of on a daily reminder, or I don't know. I think like in order to form those connections and acknowledge their anxiety and allow them to work through it. Like, what would you want to hear in that moment of like the kids are having a breakdown and you're like trying to step back and think your thoughts about it and not yell.
Yeah. What would I want to hear? I guess I'd like to hear, isn't this great?
Okay.
Isn't it great that you've got a family here who loves you and that you can love and that you're with? And isn't it great? Even though this moment is chaotic,
Yeah.
when they're all down to sleep and they look so cute sleeping, you think back on that chaotic moment and it's like, I don't know, it just becomes a part of it. It becomes a part of the fabric of having a family, being a dad. There's
Like
nothing else like it.
remembering why you chose this moment, like,
Yeah.
and it acknowledging that it's okay and still has.
Yeah, that's a good choice of words. That you chose this moment because there are choices you make that led you down this path, right? And it's the one that you wanted, so that's what I would want to hear.
All right, friend, that was the last and final episode of our anxiety season. I hope that this opened your eyes to a lot of different struggles that people can be having. Dads, moms, people in their early 20s, kids, teenagers. Anxiety can look different for so many different life stages, but we hope that whatever you're going through, whatever you need to talk about with somebody today, we open the door a little bit in normalizing and accepting these feelings for you. So stay tuned for season 3. We're going to have a lighter topic. It's going to be friendships. So should be a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, girly moments between Mayra and I. And thank you to our 2 guests that we had, Danielle Flint for anxiety in kids and teenagers, and Gavin Richards for anxiety in dads. Mayra is going to take it away with our final prayer and Bible verse for this season.
The Bible verse for this season is Philippians 4, 5-7. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Let us pray. God, I pray that you give us the grace to know that we are good enough, that we can trust you, that you have entrusted these babies to us, and that you did not make a mistake with that. Father, I pray that you will help us shut down the noises of what people think we should do or we should be, and that you will help us be present with our kids. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
As we wrap up today's episode, we are grateful you join us to explore what it means to remain connected to God, to yourself, and to others. To stay updated on future episodes, be sure to hit that subscribe button and connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Remain Connected. Counseling appointments can be made at RemainConnectedLLC.com. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, may you find peace in your connections and blessings in every step of your journey. Have a blessed day.